Hello and welcome to another Fan Fuel podcast. You can see the title there. We are back. Last year's episode, obviously, the about motorsports. And today I'm joined, as always, with Colton Cranmore. What's up, Colton? It's been a couple weeks. We've both been gone. I mean, what's been up?
Not a whole lot. Had a movie buddy move into the house here. Watched some racing, working my life away. Kind of just the same MO as always.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I just got back from Mexico. We did some engagement photos and got some stuff for the wedding almost wrapped up. So let me get married here in 8 weeks, which is crazy.
Yeah,
So that's fun. So we've been gone for a little bit. Had a couple of mishaps between all that stuff, but I think we're good. And I think going forward, we're gonna have a schedule coming up that's gonna be really good. So to get a little bit more in depth into that, it looks like I'm going to be on every show now. We've moved the recordings around to where that's going to be possible. And Colton and Keith are going to be alternating for us Wednesday and Mondays, and for you guys every Wednesday. Because I'll be at work when the second show or every other show goes live, I should say. So this is live. You don't have to worry about that tonight. And speaking of being live, we do have a giveaway going on. So if you are paying attention and you did see that reel/TikTok, when you hear the secret word, go ahead and put the comment of the number down, and we will get you one of those Josh Williams Parked It shirts. So with that being said, we have been gone for a few weeks. What do you want to talk about from Las Vegas?
Ooh, man, that was so long ago. I don't even remember what happened. Like in Xfinity or trucks. Kyle Busch won trucks.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, there was that great finish with Austin Hill and Chandler Smith. Almost got it done. Came up to I think 2 to go when Austin Hill made the pass. That was a pretty kick-ass race. We got to see finally a long green flag strategy play out this season, which was nice. Cup race left a lot to be desired. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for the notes. They're so far back now. Yeah. So the Cup race was kind of meh. Everybody threw their alarm bells up soon as they saw that race. Like, oh my God, this next gen car is just as bad as the 550 package. And we even had one of the drivers say that. Was it Christopher Bell that said that?
Tyler Reddick says it
Tyler
is
Reddick.
dangerously
Yeah.
close to the 550.
Yeah, and I understand that. And NASCAR is trying to do some stuff with like groove tires and stuff. And we've heard on Denny's podcast, they're not getting any horsepower back. So at this point, it's a lost cause. 2022 had some damn good racing. I think this car is still going to be producing good racing. I thought that race was pretty good. I think the only thing that ruined that race for me was the green, white, checkered. And that's something we'll talk about in a second because we had two of them in a row. But for me, the race of the weekend was Xfinity. And a lot of people called that race boring. They called that race boring because there was 12 cars on the lead lap. And I just have to say, why are you going to call that race boring when we had the comers and goers and then the last lap was a traditional 1.5 mile race? I felt like I was watching a Cup race from Atlanta from 2000 to 2007 or 2011. I mean, is that how you felt?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only people that were really calling the Xfinity Vegas race boring were the, as I like to call them, the video game fans, right? Who want to just see 6 wide cars cramming each other into the fence firewall deep. I thought that was a damn good race and possibly a candidate for finish of the year, and very early candidate. When I go to a race, that's exactly the kind of shit I want to see. I want to see a long strategy play out. I want to see guys try to save their equipment on long runs. I want to try to see visually, you could see Austin Hill closing in, and that's the shit that I really like to see. And it gets me just as much on the edge of my seat wondering if someone's going to have enough time to make a move as it does seeing a pack come out 3 wide of turn 4 at Talladega or Daytona just a couple to go. I mean, that's equally as exciting to me.
Yeah, I can say that is probably spot on what's in my brain rolling right now, as my opinions on it. If we look at Sunday, you had the same sort of thing. Fewer cars on a lead lap. You had some comers and goers. Passing was obviously a little bit harder because the Cup cars are just like that. They're harder to pass. We've seen that since 2015, really, when they started tapering off the engine intakes. I mean, it's something that looked old school, but it was just an old school race without the good parts.
Right.
So for me, they didn't throw any red flags out. It was a pretty decent race. I enjoyed it. It was like watching a Kansas race before they repaved it to make it progressively banked. It was just kind of a standard intermediate track. So I didn't find it too bad. Trucks was fucking wild. Which
Right.
which that could take its own show, which we should have had that, but shit happens. Um,
I
but
will, for the
go ahead.
alarmists, I think the temperature at Vegas had more to do with the racing that we saw than the actual cars in the package did. Vegas doesn't see very many 40-degree days, just in
Right.
general. And the fact that it happened on a Sunday when NASCAR's racing and just amped up all of the grip that the cars have did not play into their favor at all. And so I think that's a lot of the reason we saw the race that we did.
See, I would somewhat agree with you. Now you'll probably argue my point on this because of the different aggregate of the actual tracks. But Fontana the week before had a much better race, and it was probably the same, if not colder. So,
Right.
like I said, you'll probably disagree just because of how worn out that surface is. But I don't necessarily know that it was the cold. But I will say this: when it comes to cold races, when we look at Martinsville from last year, that those two races were both cold and they were both shit. So,
Right.
uh, I mean, yeah, maybe this car just doesn't like it when it's hot and slick. But of course, race fans don't like it when it's not hot and slick, anyways. So, and like I said, it was okay. Anything stand out to you from the Phoenix weekend?
Not really that I wouldn't be willing to criticize NASCAR or the track for.
Okay.
I think that this weekend, I've been on the train for quite a while now that Phoenix is way too damn wide. And this track or this previous race just kind of solidified it. I think the guys have way too many options. I think NASCAR would be better off and PIR would be very much better off cutting that dog leg width in half and then cutting off being able to run the apron at least in 1 and 2. Give
Okay.
guys less of a reason to go around or less of an avenue to get away from each other and get them a little closer. And I think Phoenix can put on a decent race if we
So
get
maybe just add some turf right there.
perfect.
And just separate it to where they've got a way to get out of pit road
Yeah,
to blend in before 1 and 2 or
I
3,
think
4,
you
whatever
could
the
even
fuck it
keep
is.
maybe 4 feet of the apron open and then turf the rest between the wall and whatever space that leaves. Don't let a full car get down there on the flat. And then same with the dog leg. Cut that width in half. I don't need to be seeing guys going right next to the pit wall, 150 feet, whatever it is, away from the outside wall. Fucking bring that in.
So we know that they did that because of restarts being mad. Like that's the whole reason that we don't have the traditional start finish line at Phoenix anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they realized that guys were going to do that on restarts, they're like, "Hey, we need to just go ahead and move it." And so now it's even more prominent. Interestingly enough, I see a bunch of negativity on Twitter about how that race track has never put on a good show. And okay, prior to the repave, yeah, Phoenix put on pretty good shows, driver track shows, but those are for old school fans like you and me. And B, the first 6 races after the repave were amazing. So that track, I think, is another one suffering from too much grip, too much downforce, not enough horsepower. But also, since they moved it from the back straightaway to where the start finish line is now, I don't think we've had a good race there.
No, absolutely not.
So
I definitely agree with that. I think I don't know necessarily. I don't want to blame the flag stand on it, but it's just kind of a good timestamp of when the races stopped being really entertaining there.
And I don't know if it's because of the restarts, because you only have passing on the restarts there, and I don't know if that's because everybody that has a good car straight lines the dog leg, gets their 5 or 6 spots, and they don't have to battle up those right. positions. So it might be counterintuitive to what the flip flopping of the start finish line was. I don't know, but the interesting thing about those two races is they both were won by William Byron, one, and two, they both ended in green white checkers. So circling back to Las Vegas, I want to ask you, how did you feel about that green white checkered at Vegas? Not necessarily whether or not the caution was worth it. Did the green white checker do anything for you that day?
No, I would have, and we have much different views on this than a lot of people on Twitter do. But as a race fan, I would have rather seen Kyle Larson kick marbles on the field for those last couple laps than stack them all up and just unleash chaos for 2 laps. I would have been much happier seeing Kyle Larson go home and just put on an ass whooping there than what we got with the restack and seeing William Byron steal it away.
Yeah. And that I think not just that for me, but I think the fact now no wrong for them to do this. I don't say, don't do this. This is stupid. But MTJ with James Small putting them on 2 tires on the front, or no tires, I can't remember what it was, stacking up the field made that even more useless as a restart, and only by the pit strategy than anything else, because he just backed the whole field up and nobody could catch the 24. The 24 was the best car of the day, but the 5 had made that work. All that work just gone to shit because of basically a redraw. And at this point in my life, I haven't really liked the green white checkered concept, since I was a kid and it came out. But at this point in my life, I'm like, well, at this point, just fucking throw the end of stage 2 at 10 laps till the end, and then fucking call that the final stage. Like if that's what we want, that's what we'll get. I don't want that. I would have been so much more happy with that race in particular if the finish hadn't gone green white checkered, because it just left a sour taste in my mouth that Kyle Larson didn't win. But that is the field we play on now. So
yeah, and we've both been in that same boat. We both made the joke that by the end of the decade, there's going to be mandatory green white checkers at every race.
Yeah.
Which, I'm in the same boat. I liked him as a kid because I liked the chaos more, right? And I like to see the guys who, maybe didn't have a chance earlier get up to it. But now as a race fan, it is like just fucking end it at whatever the advertised distance is. Like, if there's a caution, so be it. If we get a natural green white checkered, fine, all for it. Let's race to 400 miles.
I'm just thinking, looking at it, we had 2 out of the first 3 weeks, and neither one of those green white checkers did anything to those races for me. Like, if anything, the second one with William Byron basically being handed the win because of pit road, that just left a sour taste in my mouth. No. Again, I don't have anything wrong with William Byron picking it. I said this was going to be his breakout year. I said he's going to win the championship this year. So I expected him to get some wins, but that's just, it is at this point. That's where I'm at. Phoenix, same thing with you, or did it add something to you?
No, same thing. Didn't really add anything to the race, in my opinion. Added a good, nice fan out restart, but that was about it. There was really no.
At least that one was exciting.
I will say the only thing it added was the Denny Hamlin drama.
Yeah.
Without that green white checker, we don't get this.
Yeah. And that's a good segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, and that was the impending appeal from Denny Hamlin. What do you think? We have a podcast. We vocalize our stuff weekly. We obviously have we're going against the grain when it comes to most of the popular opinions on Twitter and stuff when we talk about stuff. But do you care that Denny Hamlin said that?
I do not care that Denny Hamlin said that. No.
Okay. So his argument going into the appeal, I think, is going to be something like, Um, I don't know, but what I think it could boil down to is you didn't penalize me until I said something, and you heard it on Monday. So if you can't penalize me at the track, why are you penalizing me at all?
Right. Which I don't know how you feel, but I wholeheartedly agree with. I think Dale Jr. brought up a good point that especially with social media and the way things are evolving with the media, there needs to be a line drawn in the sand as far as what can be penalized, what can't. Who's to say that Denny doesn't go out to the bar after the race with a NASCAR official and say, yeah, I wrecked him on purpose? Like, is that now going to be penalizable? Are we now going to penalize people for bar conversations? As a fan, I get very skittish about this as well, because Denny is doing this podcast to inform us and to give us more of a view of what it's like as a driver, what it's like as a team owner, much as DBC does on the other end of it, from the roof and from the team side.
And also with Dirty Mo's outreach, they have been the number one. DBC has been the number one podcast multiple times in their tenure in the sports page on Apple Podcast. So Denny thinks, and is probably right, that he is reaching new fans when he says some of the stuff that he's educating us on, where it's like, oh, well, I know that. Well, some of the guys that even watch our podcast who are fans that have been there for a long time probably learn stuff from technical stuff that we say or the experts say. I mean, so NASCAR has this bag, right? And it's all encompassing of every member of media in the NASCAR spectrum, and that includes us as fans. That includes the drivers that have podcasts like Denny, like Corey LaJoie, like Ryan Blaney. They have to be able to reach into that bag and pull stuff out for their own use. Well, when you say that he can't say this stuff, you're zip tying that bag shut, because they're going to stop talking. They're going to stop doing this. And once you shut that media stuff off, that's not going to get to the younger audience.
Exactly. Yep. There's a transparency that these guys bring in their podcasts that I feel like is going to be mitigated now, because we've heard Corey LaJoie say some dumb shit on his podcast too.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily say that he flat out wrecked someone, but say that I raced this guy hard, or I put him in the fence, or I purposely ran him wide on the corner. We've heard him say that multiple times. Even Dale Jr. when he was still racing, heard him say the same shit. So why is it now that Denny's going to get penalized for it? And also, I look like they're going to, like you said, they're going to stop talking. They're going to stop giving us this nugget of information. Like you said, I think that if you can't get him at the track, you can't fucking penalize him. We saw Joey Logano, and tons of people have been talking about this on Twitter. We saw Joey Logano get out of Darlington last year and allude to the fact that he intentionally moved William Byron out of the way and sent him up into the fence. Is that not affecting the outcome of the race? Is that not?
But is it only okay to affect the outcome of a race if it's for the lead?
Exactly. There's a whole can of worms here.
And that's why I posted a fan fuel fill up. If you guys are on TikTok, you'll know when we say that secret word. Remember, 92 in the chat. But anyways, you'll know that I posted a fan fuel fill up after that race saying that Denny getting that penalty is kind of the end of the boys have at it era, because now you don't know what you can do or can't do. Because if you don't tiptoe and eggshell your way around post race media, you might get hit with a penalty for doing something that normally would be just a racing incident, which in general, unless you know there's malice there, that's still a racing incident. Hell, even with malice, that's still a racing incident. That's no different than running somebody up the track at Bristol before they repaved it and made it progressive. I mean, we knew exactly what people were doing with the bump and run. We know what people are doing at Martinsville when they try to jack each other up. We knew what Allmendinger and Chastain did last year at Coda. I mean, come on. It's not penalizable unless it's all penalizable. So don't do it. I don't give a shit what he said. That's where it's like.
You're a lifelong race fan, as am I. You're also a flagman. What's a percentage of the time that you can tell that someone intentionally wrecks a driver? Because for me, it's like 95%. I can tell if they did something on purpose. I don't mean nudging them out of the way. I mean yeeting them.
So when you see incidents on the flag stand, okay, 95% of the time they're racing incidents. You know that somebody got into it.
Right.
They were just horsing around, running hard. It's good hard racing. Something that I would still look at that incident that we didn't even see live on TV as just being something racing incident. Because they didn't take each other out. When somebody wants to take somebody out, they look like fucking Matt Kenseth at Martinsville against Joey Logano. Like, you can hear the throttle either go up too soon or not go off when they go into a corner, and you see the car get jacked up and they get sent. And how good the person is at wrecking other people is going to mean whether or not they get wrecked too. But there's no chance that you're not going to know when it's intentional
Right.
unless you don't know what you're doing.
Were you aware in last year that Joey moved William out of the way intentionally?
Yeah.
So why are the fucking people in the booth not aware of this same shit?
I don't know. They're all young ever since
David Hoots.
David Hoots. I saw his face and I forgot his name for a second. Ever since Hoots left, they've been doing a rotational thing. You've heard about that on DBC. They don't like it. I don't like it. Get somebody with some actual experience up there. I don't know if these guys that are coming up into the booth are either A, scared to make a call because NASCAR's kind of got the marionette on them, or B, if they just don't have any real world experience. You put myself, my dad up there. You put guys that have been flag stand or race directors for 5 years at a short track, doing regional events, whatever. They can probably do better job than what these guys are doing. They've got the cameras. They've got more than you can see with your eyeballs from a flag stand or the rooftop, and they can't do their job right. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know, because we did hear DBC mention that, you alluded to it, that there's new people, there's rotating in. Well, the one that they brought up was Jesse Little, that you could hear him on the radio kind of making calls and getting the lineup right, but you could hear people behind him telling him what to say. So I want to know who the fucker is behind Jesse Little telling him what to say, because ultimately that's going to be the guy making the decision.
So my question is, I know we've seen him race in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Has he worked at a racetrack before? Has
No.
he done race directing?
It sounds
for a season at Hickory? Has he done it for a season for the Cars Tour, one of the regional modifieds tours in Carolinas or whatever? Has he done it for dirt racing? Has he done it for a regional dirt racing series? Like, you can't go to a national series event with a guy that's just done it because he raced a couple of truck series races.
Right. NASCAR, I think, stands for the Nepotism Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, because as long as you know a guy, you can get any job you want there.
Yeah, and that sucks because there's real passionate people out there that would do a better job.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I'm kind of alluding to that. I probably would be better than whoever they got up there. But yeah, is that all you think for the first couple of weeks that we missed?
Yeah, I mean, overall, just kind of meh races for the most part. Fontana put on a good show, but I haven't really seen a race yet that I thought, like, damn, like, where I feel fulfilled after the race.
So I will disagree, because Saturday and Friday night at Las Vegas, I was very happy with.
I will say Saturday. Yeah.
I love the chaos that ensues with the trucks at Las Vegas. It always puts on one of the best shows of the year. And if I'm going to have small brain racing, that's the kind of small brain racing I want to have. And we need to put that cap on here in a little bit for the Atlanta action. However, a lot of stuff happened outside of NASCAR. So Supercross, we've been seeing Eli Tomac do his thing. Supercars had their season opener in Newcastle, the first time they've been back in New Zealand since the pandemic. So that was pretty neat. Gen 3 Supercars look good. They sound even meaner, and they race even crazier because they are wider, just like the new cars that we have in NASCAR. And go watch that stuff. Get SuperView, $7.99 a month, I think. You get it from March till October. You can watch every single one of the Supercars races, all their support series. And then also we had St. Pete, a couple of weeks ago for the first triple header event, we also had Bahrain, however you say it in the native tongue, from F1. That race, a lot of people said was boring. Fernando Alonso got on the podium, so Nathan was probably really excited about that. St. Pete, they they took the fact that they were at an airport too seriously. We had 3 cars flying in the air, so if you watched that, that was crazy. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it. This past weekend, Checo Sergio Perez got the win in Saudi Arabia, who apparently wants to host that race twice a year. So we'll see what happens there. And that catches up to this weekend at Atlanta. So 2-day show. We got rained out on Friday, so no practice or qualifying for the lower series. First and foremost, the turn 3 pit entry for pit road speed all the way to the exit of entry of turn 1. So what do you think about that?
I get why they did it. I also understand the problems that are going to arise from it. I get that they didn't want everyone stacking up immediately after the exit 4, trying to make that sharp turn, possibly causing a massive wreck or someone getting hurt. But also, now we're in a spot where if there's like Christopher Bell this last weekend could have trapped the entire field 2.5 laps down, 2 laps down, 3 laps down, some of them, if a caution had come out while he was in the lead. So I think there's big gaps there. And this isn't like at Bristol where you can get fresh tires and you can make up a lap under green. That's not going to happen here. You're going to have to get the lucky cautions to get wave arounds, which thankfully my guy Ryan Blaney did after he was caught speeding on pit road. But still, I think this is going to open up more of a can of worms in the future than people realize.
Yeah. My biggest fear, which did we get green flag pit stops?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't have a caution during them, right? Okay. Yeah. I was spotty this whole weekend, so I really only saw the last 30 laps of the Cup race. So I'm talking out my ass most of this time just for what comes in the future. So my biggest fear was green flag pit stops and caution coming out, somebody being 2 laps down. My second thing is looking at the replay and during some of those last cautions, it was kind of goofy looking, seeing them be that slow on a caution lap. So I think they could probably hybridize this and have normal pit road procedures during cautions. And then also, if the pack doesn't split up and go single file, which I assume they did because they have no problems getting on the pit road, what happens because you've got guys decelerating to 55 on the back straightaway, on the apron, and when people are coming out onto the racetrack, that's the same acceleration point. I don't know if there's ever going to be a mistake happen there. We didn't see it in the lower series. What's going to happen when the inexperienced drivers have to do all that? That's my biggest fear.
I think a lot, at least for the timing thing and the trapping cars laps down, because we know that the commitment line is different than the pit road speed line. Mm-hmm. So I think they could just make the turn 3 a commitment line. You can take the apron however much you want to go, right? And however you feel safe. You just can't go above this line, right? And let's call it 5 feet off of the track apron.
Yeah. Well, they've got that line all the way around, so why not use it?
And so, exactly, let's just say this is the commitment line. You have to be in this box all the way around to pit road, and then here you get your speed. I think that would mitigate a lot of at least the speed issues, and as far as the trapping cars laps down. The only thing I see coming from that is guys are going to race on that apron now if we do that.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. You hit them with a harsh enough penalty, they won't do it. Imagine if you put half a tire on or over that line, you get a 30-second hold. You're not going to do that. You're not going to risk that. You're not going to risk that. You're going to try your best to go around there as quickly as possible. Secondly, we still need practice, regardless of what Denny Hamlin says on his podcast, at super speedways, just for what we saw at Daytona with the 50 car, but also this kind of shit right here. We could have got pit road practice, and NASCAR coming out and saying they'll have their one chance during qualifying is a joke to me.
I want to bring up, and I guarantee, missed this because you didn't watch the full broadcast, but Clint Boyer hit on it early in the race, and he was talking about the need for practice, and he said, well, boys, I'm a race fan, and I want to show up and see entertainment. You know, I don't want to see cars fucking practicing and this and that and the other thing. And I thought, well, Clint, I'm a race fan, and I want to see cars on track all goddamn weekend.
Yeah.
Right? I want to show up Friday, and I want to see cars on track. I want to see cars on track Saturday and Sunday and Thursday. And I want to see cars being engineered the piss out of. I would rather see that than see a shit show where dumb stuff goes wrong.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that you said that two line of words, because here's the thing: if you look at an IndyCar weekend, they have minimum 90 minutes of practice. If you look at a Formula One weekend, they have minimum 90 minutes of practice. On their sprint race weekends, they have 90 minutes of practice plus qualifying plus a sprint race, but they have an additional 60 minutes, so that's 100 and whatever the fuck, I can't do math. 180 plus 30. So 210 minutes of practice plus qualifying plus the race. And they still put on bangers every now and again. IndyCar has 90 minutes of practice plus what feels like an hour of qualifying, 30-minute warm-up before the race on Sunday, and they put on bangers every time they get on the racetrack. One of them's engineered to hell, one of them's spec, which is what we are now. So you're not gonna hear me ever say that, oh, we shouldn't have practice because these cars are too close and they'll just make the races boring. No, if the car's fucking good, the car will put on good shows. Doesn't matter whether we have practice or not. Look at V8 supercars, which is what we designed this to be a hybrid between a GT3 car and a V8 supercar. V8 supercars have 2 30-minute practices on Saturdays when they have double headers, and 60 minutes and 30 minutes when they don't have double headers on Saturdays. So they have 60 to 90 minutes of practice every weekend. Plus they have timed qualifying of 2 15-minute sessions and a shootout. And then when they go to Bathurst, when they go to Surfers Paradise, they have 6 to 8 hours of practice. And they still put on banger races every time they hit the track. And you have guys that dominate those races sometimes where you have 14 to 40-second leads at the end of the race. And those races are always bangers because those cars put on good racing. The problem is, and this is probably the next point that I want to hit to, the problem is NASCAR listens too much to fans, and fans are too much of bitches to sit down, understand what they're watching, and actually enjoy something rather than look at it, see if it feels good, and make it stick. Because if you put 4 more brain cells into NASCAR, understand the nuance, it becomes urethral. You know,
NASCAR has a problem with listening.
Ethereal. I said urethral.
I think that P-tubes.
P-tubes.
NASCAR.
Somebody should clip that
with listening to the wrong fans.
Yeah,
I think it almost seems like they just hop on a NASCAR and NBC Twitter thread and see and kind of just take a gauge of 10 tweets and see what people are saying and then take that at face value rather than looking at the reason for it. When we say, hey, we want closer racing, I just don't want Kurt Busch kicking a 17-second lead like he did at Fontana the year that Jimmy won, right? I'd rather see cars a little bit more close than that, but I don't want a 550 package where everyone's wide open every corner and can't pass.
But then again, when you say that, they're like, "Oh, well, we can't have this at all."
Exactly. It's
and
like
that's the problem. It's like some of these races are gonna be where there might be 4 cars on the lead lap at the end.
Yeah,
but we've put in rules to prevent that. That's why we've got the lucky dog. That's why we've got waiver rounds. That's why we've got double file restarts. All that stuff fixed all that. Look at the racing past 2010 when you put all that stuff in. Past 2004 when you put all that stuff in. The racing got better because we got more cars on the lead lap. But we still had races where Jimmy Johnson or Martin Truex Jr. won by 30 seconds on these big ovals, you know? That shit happens.
Exactly. It'll happen. They think it's either all or nothing. Or we see like the fan council surveys, right? Would you rather see cars close together or a boring race? Like, well, fuck you, right? Like,
Yeah.
Would you rather eat this for dinner or me shoot you in the foot? Like,
Yeah.
okay,
And if
well,
you
it doesn't
wanted
close
that
the
to be an
fact that I'm allergic
actual,
to
like,
peanuts.
you wanted that shit to be actually scientifically certified data, that question would not even be allowed. So, like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't. That's coercion. That's exactly what you're
Yes.
doing. You're coercing the survey taker to give the answer you
Answer.
wanted.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. But I think that leads to the conversation about the track itself, because they did this because fans wanted closer racing and they didn't want this to happen, you know, because Texas and Kentucky had crappy racing with their repaves because they repaved in the wrong way. But they had to repave it differently because they didn't want to have snoozer races and fall off the schedule, right? So to bring up this part of the discussion, um, how are it's a very divisive thing. How are we as a fan base taking on super speedway racing in this new role with the next gen car, with this hybrid 1.5 miler of Atlanta? I mean, it's been very divisive. As a whole, how are you feeling the fan base is about what's going on at, the 6 races we saw last year and the 2 we've already seen this year?
Overall, the package, the fan base, I think, has hope as a whole, right? Because the Gen 6 really put on a few boring restrictor plate races when it came out. It always takes a few years, especially for the super speedway package to develop.
Yeah.
And usually you have to work it around the car, right? You can't work the car around the racing. It has to kind of go the opposite. I think the fans also know that the change in Atlanta was not the best when we had yet to see what this car does.
Okay. All right. And from a fan perspective to a personal perspective, are you in that exact same thought process, or what are you thinking with these 8 races in the super speedway package from the next gen?
I am undecided. I think I'm leaning more towards it will take more time to evolve. Because like I said before, we didn't really get the banger Gen 6 super speedway races until a few years later, probably about 2015 era is when they really started to be good. At least to what we know is Gen 6 super speedway races, which is some of the best we've seen, if not the best, at
Ever.
least since
Yeah.
tandem, right?
Yeah.
And even that, the tandem racing, right? It didn't happen in 2008. It started to slowly happen in 2009. And by 2011, it was full fledged. So I think we
Yeah.
still have to give it a time overall in the package. And I think the driver's attitude will change too, because they're still expecting these massive runs and being
And
able
they're
to
not
pull
getting
out, right? And they're going to have to learn how it's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm on that page too. These races so far to me have just been races. As far as what we were talking about previously, when we watch a 1.5 mile race and they don't show battles mid pack and the guy's 12 seconds in the head, you think that's boring because you're only seeing the leader and you're not seeing these comers and goers. But I can enjoy that a little bit more because I know the nuance. Well, with this racing, I feel like I'm that guy that thinks it's boring, but I don't have any nuance because it doesn't seem like there are those runs. And so I'm sitting here like the drivers, mad as hell because it doesn't seem like the drivers can do anything.
Right.
So I think I'm very hopeful that it will change, but I'm also realistic that it's going to take drastic changes. And I think that we're going to have something like the Wicker Bill back, but I think they're scared of it after what happened. When they put the Wicker Bill on in the first place, on those big ass spoilers. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll get back to what it was the late Gen 6 era, but until then I won't be happy.
Right. I think part of it too is, like I mentioned, the driver's going to have to learn that it's not like the past where you can kind of make a move on your own. Like, you're going to have 4 or 5 cars go with you. So maybe in the next few races, we'll see guys not try to race until 2 to go. We'll see guys try to make runs with 10, 15, 20 to go because they know they can't do this or that on the final lap anymore. I think the driver's mindset is going to evolve too.
Yeah, and I can't wait for it. I want every race to be entertaining, from whatever standpoint that is. Uh, I just I'm not very satisfied right now. We've got 4 more to go this year with not even hitting Talladega yet, and that's usually the best because it's the widest. So we'll see what happens here in a couple weeks, and hopefully it'll turn my opinions around, and we'll have a good race. With that though, we got this repave because of fan and driver opinion. So we talked about it prior to hitting record on the show. SMI, I don't know whether they are more gung-ho to take risks than ISC or if they are more scared of losing a lot by doing the same thing, because they are, when it comes to the two, big hitters with our tracks, the ones that are taking all these big risks. Banking change at Texas, banking change at Kentucky, banking change here, Bristol Dirt Race, and then the original one, the Roval. So, do you think that this was them being scared of what could happen, or let's just take a risk? There's no way that we can be wrong.
I think it's more so the second option. Let's take a risk. Let's try this. Not necessarily because they don't think they can be wrong, because they've even kind of admitted that Texas was a fuck up. But more so that NASCAR wouldn't dare take more dates away from us.
Okay, yeah. Well, see, I kind of coerced that that question myself. I think my reasoning for wording it like that is building a super speedway. There's no way that we can be wrong, is what I'm thinking, because Daytona and Talladega are the quote bread and butter of the series, despite only going to them 4 out of 36 times a year prior to this redesign of Atlanta. But I'm glad that they take risks, but we've seen 2 tracks completely, we'll say close, because essentially the March date closed on Texas, and they lost the All-Star event by doing something that just doesn't make sense. They didn't listen to drivers, I'm sure, when they asked about repaving Kentucky, which was the second one to get repaved. So they didn't listen to drivers here. The drivers all complained about that. But the drivers, I mentioned to you, I have a theory. Dale Jr. specifically, and the drivers a little bit later, like you said prior to the show, are the reason that we have this whole speedway debacle in the first place. I think that when 2015 came around and they said, hey, we're going to be resurfacing this place in a couple of years, and Dale Jr. said no, I think that is the reason the super speedway even exists. What do you think about that line of thinking?
I think it led to the super speedway existing. I don't think in that moment they were already formulating a plot, but I think that Dale Jr.'s reaction kicked off a bigger reaction when they brought it up again a couple years later, to where we saw every driver say, no, don't repave this place. And then they kind of had to do something drastic, because we all knew that Atlanta needed repaved, right? There was potholes coming up in places. But we also knew that the drivers were going to be fucking pissed. So let's try something different and get the conversation away from the repave and onto something else that we can at least try to be excited about.
But here's the line of the dates, right? So 2015 comes around. They're supposed to start getting prepared to repave after the race in 2017. They postponed it in 2017 because of the backlash. They postponed it again in 2018. They postponed it again in 2019. They postponed it again in 2020. Pandemic hits. I think that's when the speedway starts happening. But you know what else happened after all of that? The 550 package. Because if we would have repaved that damn racetrack in 2017 after the checkered flag happened, we wouldn't have known anything about that 550 package. We wouldn't have been scared about that 550 package screwing up our racetrack. They would have done the exact same layout that they had, and we would have raced on that sumbitch for 5 years now. how do you think we would be with Atlanta? Would it still just be the March/February date, or would we still have, or would we have gone to 2 dates anyways?
That one is tough. I think we would have gone to 2 dates anyways.
Do people hate Atlanta?
New Atlanta?
Repaved Atlanta.
Current Atlanta, it is not favorable. Had we repaved in 2017 and let the track wear in for 5 years, people would be so head over heels in love with Atlanta in that previous form at the moment.
Right. But people showed up in droves to all 3 races, way more than they did prior to the repave. I know we had a pandemic, so that's kind of a shitty discourse to have. However, do you think we see the 2 dates and a lot of people showing up to Atlanta with the same old, even though it comes back? Because whether or not we like this super speedway package, I feel like they hit a banger as far as attendance.
I think just throwing that SS tag on the back of Atlanta and calling it a super speedway led to that. Because we know that Daytona, Talladega have the highest viewership of any other races in the season. We know that they usually have the highest attendance of any other race in the season, minus the Bristol night race. So I think that alone is enough to get some fans out of the woodwork. The question, I think, is, are those the fans that we want to be chasing?
I don't know. We'll see in a couple of years, you
Right.
know. Let's see, 2017, so it'd be 2018 to 2023. That's 5 years. So 2022, 2027. We'll see if we still have 2 dates in Atlanta. We'll see if the 2 dates are still packed.
And I think you and I are both kind of seeing the writing on the wall that this can't be a super speedway race for much longer without continuous repaves, because the track is already wearing out. It's going to continue to wear out. You alluded to it before the show. The only way we're going to keep a super speedway race at this track is if we, choke them down to 140 miles an hour. We will see old Atlanta still come out. It's just going to be faster in the corners than it was.
Yeah. And so that two things with that. First of all, I'm glad you brought that up. Does that mean that the pavement, which is a new, I guess, aggregate that they put down to make it age, if they'd have put that on in 2017, it'd already be a damn good racetrack by now, hands down, because it's already aged a lot in a year.
Right.
So, like you said, we were talking about it earlier. We're scared that they're going to age it out. What happens once it ages out? Because fast cornering speed is what we know ruined the 550 package. Is what we know ruined racing from 2014 to 2015, even from going from 890 horsepower to 750 horsepower. Even with lower downforce in 2015, the racing was worse. We know that. We're going to have high corner speeds just like we did when they put tapered spacers on it. Are you even going to be able to pass once you take off the plate package?
Yet to be determined. I think the 1.5 mile package with the current cars in its modern form is good enough to survive that. Will they be absolute knockout races? No. I don't think they're going to be any worse than we saw at Vegas, though.
But I think they might be too fast. I think 28 degrees of banking might be too fast for that package.
But I think this track is going to wear out to where it's going to be grading tires again, and guys are going to have to choose if they want to be faster, if they want to have grip.
All right. Well, we'll have to put this little bottle this one up, see who's right, and in 2027. We'll see what's going on.
Right.
All right. And I mean, even when we talked to Sam Mayer in the garage last year, he was like, it's chewed up a little bit since we've been here in March. So even between March and July last year, it had aged a bunch. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens at the night race. But this weekend, we do need to get into what happened and stop going on our high horses here, because we are the 2 greatest NASCAR fans who are always right, apparently.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're watching this podcast, you know that we're legends. So
we are Dave Moody's in training.
Yeah. No, we're better than that. We're better than that. I might be big as him, but I think we're better. Yeah. So Saturday. Saturday was something.
Saturday was something. It was a race.
Yeah, 2 races
Two
actually.
races. Yeah, it was. It was a
So
day.
I caught most of the Xfinity race because I had woken up, but I did have to go to work before it was over, which I wasn't expecting to happen. So I'm assuming that the truck race was just as festive, I should say.
It was a little bit compared to the Xfinity race. It was a lot more calm. It was still.
Okay.
I mean, it's still a truck race, so take that with a grain of salt. But I thought the trucks, minus the chaos, put on a pretty damn good show.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to go back and watch it. It'll probably be on YouTube by now. So I'll have to go back and watch it. All right. Okay, that's good. I do want to formally apologize to Dalen Barr. We had a little Twitter interaction this weekend. I can't remember the exact tweets, but he was very unhappy that there's a doubleheader at this race. Obviously, because he's got camera gear, he's got to lug around the track twice in the same day to cover his truck and Xfinity Series drivers. So in 2015 was the first. So 2013, we were doing the Legends car races at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and Ted Osted, who at that time was a promoter for the track. I'm not sure if he still is or not because I haven't been up there and worked in quite some time. They were talking about not liking the fact that they had moved to February, not liking the fact that they didn't have trucks, or they were going to get moved to February because this was before they moved them, not liking that they didn't have trucks, especially because it was a 3-day weekend and Labor Day. I was like, well, why don't y'all just run the trucks and Xfinity on Saturday? He laughed at me and said that would lose them money because they would sell less tickets. Well, 2 years later, they moved to February. They do that because they're like, NASCAR, we're not moving to February unless we have all 3 series. NASCAR didn't want to give them the truck series, so they said we're going to run the truck series at night, the Xfinity during the day. That way we can get more people to come in the gates, or we're not taking it. And that's the only reason that they allowed them to move there, and we got the Southern 500 back in Darlington. So that I'm the reason. I had that thought. I put that seed in the promoter's head at Atlanta Motor Speedway. He laughed at me, and then 2 years later, he followed my lead. I'm still mad about it, Ted. We still have beef. But yeah, I'm sorry to every member of the press, everybody that works that race weekend, year in and year out for the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500, and now whatever the 400 miler is called, because that's my fault. I'm sorry. So just had to slip that one in there. But hell yeah, 300 and 400 mile, 200, 200, it was 900 miles in 2 days, something like that. I don't know, crazy. Who doesn't like that? More racing, better.
Right.
Racing is good. Racing is good, but pacing not so much. That's all I'm gonna say about Saturday night show with the Xfinity cars.
I will say the best thing about Saturday is it gave me an excuse to have racing on the TV longer than I would have normally.
Yeah. And then we saw the Xfinity package, which still sucks ass, give us nothing but crashes. I don't understand how they continue to have these races and don't say like, hey, we need to put a bigger spoiler on these. These cars need more downforce. They're a little too loose. They don't provide very good racing. But when they had the dog ear era, they were putting on the best show of the weekend. So I don't know. I was not happy with that race. It was kind of meh. Hell yeah, Austin Hill won at his home track. We stand Austin Hill. Like, I don't know if you do, but he's a Georgia boy, so I do.
Yeah.
But we did get the legend of Josh Williams. What do we have to say about
that? His new nickname in my eyes should be Fred Pimpstone.
Okay.
because that was one of the coolest things I've seen. I've seen this happen at local tracks, and it always pisses me off. But it's always because someone gets DQ'd and they immediately get out and throw a fit, and slam their helmet, and cuss at the crowd and cuss at the flagman. Josh got out and waved and like threw up the peace sign and threw up the heart to the camera. He was pissed, but he was in a good mood pissed, which I like. And also, I've never seen that someone do this on national TV.
Yeah,
Other than
well,
Antonio
I
Brown.
mean, Antonio Brown did that, right? That's exactly what I was about to bring up. That he actually retweeted it and said something and then deleted the tweet later, so I don't know exactly what he said. But, I mean, this move was straight, like you said, out of a Saturday Night Show. Now, I'm going to be pissed as a race promoter, as a race director, as a flagman, whatever, because you're stopping my show again or whatever. But I gotta side with Josh on this. That is the dumbest rule I've ever seen. So if you clear the DVP, apparently that doesn't apply because it didn't apply to the 9 car in 2021 at the Roval. We've seen multiple instances where it hasn't applied to a Cup race at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then dude didn't even have time to do his thing. Like, they didn't give him time to go back and say, hey, whatever. And the rule clearly states that if you lengthen a caution period, you're going to get either a 30-second hold, a 2-lap hold, or thrown to the garage at the discretion of the race director. This was Josh's first offense. Josh has been an upstanding citizen anytime he's been in a race car prior to this. He's a good dude. He would not have done this in any other way, like you said, other than nicely. And 3, it was a piece of bear bond, and it was 41 degrees outside.
Right.
Why did you not give him a 30-second hold? Why did you not give him a 2-lap hold to let him fix that and go back out? Why is his first offense the worst punishment imaginable? Of course he's going to lash out and do something like this. And I'm glad he did it so calmly. It was hilarious.
Yeah. You wouldn't see this same kind of class, if you will, had this been done to Noah Gragson. You would have seen Noah probably do a burnout in the infield and really stink up the show and kind of extend the caution. I think that Freddie Kraft brought up a good point. I think he was just a scapegoat, right? NASCAR saw a race heading in a sour direction and was already kind of pissed, and then just pinned it on Josh and said, "You're stinking up the show."
And I get that line of thought, but he's done no wrong. He was caught up in somebody else's incident. And secondly, that caution had already taken 20 minutes because they were trying to get all that speedy dry up.
I think of it like when you're running late to work and you drop your keys going out the door, right? You're not pissed off that you dropped your keys. You're pissed off at the culmination of things.
Okay.
And I think that the culmination of it all is what led to it. I think
so. He was just that mad that he took it out on Josh Williams.
He was just in the moment and said, "F it, you garage now." Trying in a way to kind of dad their way to clean up the show, right?
Yeah.
Say, cut the shit. You go. Everyone else, stop. Everyone else, cut the shit. Let's get this going. I think they were trying to make an example and scapegoating him rather than actually trying to penalize him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I get it. That wasn't the guy to do that to. The next guy that caused the caution. I can go out on tangents all night, every night, but again, I'll go on one. Short track racing. This is solved by, if you are involved in an incident, you lose your position and you go to the back of the longest line, whether that's behind the lap cars or behind the lead lap cars. If they're doing old style NASCAR starts or if they're doing double file, whatever, you go to the end of the line. If you start doing that in NASCAR, people will start acting right in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. They don't act stupid in Cup because they're the best. There's some stupid shit that goes on in Cup. They don't act stupid in Cup. I feel like if you start doing that, even at these big ass races where you have to put 10, 15 cars in the rear, people will stop driving dumb. I think it's NASCAR's own fault that they have these kind of problems for the lower series.
Right, exactly. They almost they don't really enable the bad behavior, but they don't punish it either.
Yeah, they don't punish
And then,
it. And then
that ties back to the front of the show. Like, how do we know half the shit isn't intentional? Right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna get penalized for it, so why not fucking do it?
Exactly. And there's some short tracks that if you spin, you go to the rear. But in most places, if you spin someone, you and the car go to the rear. So
right,
do it. If you do that, the show will clean up. Maybe they don't want the show to clean up because the wrecks is what brings people in.
And I will say, as a fan of tracks that do this, and my local track down in Denver will do this. Send both cars to the rear. Now you got 2 races to watch because you got the leaders, right? And everyone trying to chase the leaders. And then you got these 2 dipshits back here who are out of the way and pissed off as all hell at each other. Now you got 2 sources of entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, we wouldn't see that because Fox wouldn't cover it. But only implement this rule when NBC is on Xfinity and Cup.
Let's be fair here. We would miss lead changes. We would miss the actual race because they're trying to cover this.
Because Chase Elliott bumped Kevin Harvick or something. Yeah,
right.
I guess you're right. Yeah, but I mean, and that might be something to going into it, but I think that would fix everything. And then second part of this, the penalty. Why is he suspended this weekend at COTA?
Good one.
Not following a direct order, okay.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch wasn't suspended when he pushed the 29 car down pit road with no driver, with the driver hanging out of it at Darlington. He was just suspended a week.
Right.
This is the first time that I think we've seen a driver suspended for not following a direction per NASCAR, or anything, honestly, other than what, Kenseth? Did Bubba got suspended too, right?
Bubba got suspended, but
Bubba's
those are a
putting
different
people in danger, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then Kyle Busch with Ron Hornaday. Those are the three things that I can see in the back of my mind is happening. And then we've got him suspended, a back marker guy who just shows up and is there to make your scorecard look better because it's got a bigger number on it. He does anything wrong. Like, I don't understand.
The probably the legal reason that NASCAR came up with the suspension is walking on a hot racetrack, even though it was under caution, and completely ignoring the procedures, ignoring the safety procedures is how I would see that playing out.
Okay, I agree with it then. I guess, yeah, because we've come on here before and say you can't leave your car. So, yeah, okay. All right, you backed up NASCAR on that one.
Yeah, I'm just devil's advocate. Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree with that 100%. All right then. All right, Sunday. That's it. That's all we have to do now. So 400 miles instead of 500 miles. I think everybody liked that.
Yes,
except for me. just because every single race at Atlanta has been 500 miles up until that point. Other than obviously the spring race that we stole from Kentucky. That was a 400-mile race. But Atlanta's a 500-mile race. We only have the Southern 500, the Daytona 500, and the Fall Texas race that are 500 miles on the schedule. That makes me big sad. Oh, and both the Talladega races. So 5.
Yeah. Coke 600.
Makes me big sad. I mean,
let's bump it up to the Coke 700 now.
Yeah. No, let's not.
If we take 100 miles from a track, we should have to give it to another track. Phoenix is now 412 laps.
Dude, I really wish Phoenix in the fall was longer.
I don't, man. I'd rather add another 200 laps to Martinsville than.
Do you remember? Well, they took 100 away from the spring race. Do you remember in 2009, the spring race was under the lights and it was 400.
It was 412 laps, right?
67 laps.
Oh, it was even longer. Damn.
Yeah, they made it a 600K. So let me actually do that. I don't know. Let me calculate that really quick. So they went from a 500 to a 600K. It was 372 laps. 372. Yeah. So it was only 61 miles more. But I feel like that race was a lot more crazy because the strategy was different. If we go to a race twice, a racetrack twice, it has to have different lengths.
I would agree with that.
That's it.
1.5, 1.4.
So 1.5, 1.4. So they should have kept the 500 miler for Atlanta this weekend, and give me 400 kilometers at Phoenix the second time. Give me a 500 mile at Kansas, and take the 100 miles from Texas and get it to Kansas for the fall
See,
race.
there you go. Yeah.
Give me a 500
miles
miler.
back to Pocono. God damn it.
They're down to one race. I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Yeah. See, 500 miles.
Bring back Brickyard 400.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's do all that. I love longer races. I know it's not today's short attention span, whatever they want to spill it, but I think an educated fan base would very much like longer races. Fuel mileage races and the like are going to be good. So
I'd at least take a 500-mile race once a month.
Yeah, once every once
every 4 races, 9 of them.
4 races, yeah. That quarter of the schedule. There you go. Here's the endurance you wanted.
Coda, 500 miles.
That's good.
210 laps.
Oh shit! If we're gonna do a 500-mile road race, it has to be at Road America.
It has to be the Roval.
Fuck yeah! Fuck it. Bank of America 500 returns.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we keep going off track today. The Sunday racing. Did you find it enjoyable?
Are you gonna be pissed if I say no?
No, I'm not gonna be pissed.
Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah.
I thought the cars were too stuck where they were. There wasn't near as much opportunity to pass, even if you were clearly faster or could handle better than the car in front. However, I will say that Eric Jones absolutely kicked me in the fucking nuts on the last lap when I was thinking that. And it also didn't help that Joey was just the fastest car all week.
Yeah.
And was in front.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's definitely the best of the 3 races there, I think. The finish was not as good as July's last year, but I think out of the 3 races, we saw the most movement this time. So it has me feeling a little bit better about this night race in July, which is going to be a lot hotter, even though it's going to be at night. That last run that I did wind up seeing was pretty good. So I guess to me it was all right. It was better than expected because you can't really not be impressed when you expect the floor.
Right.
And we got a little bit above the floor. So it was better than expected, honestly, from my side of the view. Still would rather see a regular race than a super speedway race every day of the week, unless it's Daytona 500 day or Talladega day. And I'm at the track, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think the finish definitely saved the overall opinion of the race for most people.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see the first half of the race, so the first half of the race could have been boring as hell. But I only saw the last 30 laps, so I'm good. I saw the good shit.
It was
that obviously alters my. Yeah.
As a Blaney fan, I get this sour taste in my mouth over the past several months because I know he's not going to make a move on a teammate, and I just wish one fucking time he'd try to pass a teammate.
I think that he needs better teammates, so he needs to go to a team that actually has a team mentality. So I think he would be better as like a Hendrick driver.
Right, a team mentality rather than a help Joey Logano win mentality.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I mean, he's comfortable at Penske though. That's why he's only got 7 wins.
Yep, 7 wins. One's with Wood Brothers. One he backed into at the Roval. And fucking 3 of them were super speedways where he got them at the very last minute.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I expect a lot out of Ryan Blaney because I know he's talented. He's just too mellow for the Cup Series in this day and age. He's a Mark Martin when he has to be a Kyle Busch.
Right. I'd agree.
And that's not going to be fortuitous for him going through the future. So he's got to get more aggressive to be better. But at the moment he's not.
Right.
So I think I'm used to a New Atlanta though, so I'm not pissed that it's on the schedule anymore. But I still want my baby back. I miss my good old mile and 1.546 mile cheese grater baby. I miss that thing. Anything else that we have to go over? The one new rule this weekend is the only thing that I think there's left to go over.
How have you been following the truck series? What is Haley Deegan looking like? Because I am in the boat that she's probably out of a ride next year if she doesn't start picking up some slack.
I don't know, man.
And I think
I
out of
don't
the
know.
series, out of a ride.
Looking at Harrison Burton, he did not do that good in trucks, and he did a lot better in Xfinity. Obviously, he's doing shit in Cup, but it handles more like a truck series car than an Xfinity series car. So that could be why. I feel like she could be better in an Xfinity car, and I think she could do well as an Xfinity lifer.
I think that Harrison also had good runs in a truck and was at least competitive at points.
True.
Whereas Haley has not, other than here or there running maybe in a top 10. I don't even think I've really seen her consistently run in a top 5 in a race.
We've had 3 speedway races for them with Vegas, Atlanta, and Daytona, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's wait until the season develops before I give you a big opinion on her.
I'm just saying, like, if there's a siren that needs to be flipped, I've got my hand on the button.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do. But I think it's too early to say anything just because of the 3 races that we've had are basically super speedway races.
Yeah. But
so I'm not worried. But
if she does not
20
find
more weeks. Yeah.
that she's looking at getting a big boot.
Yeah. And that's fine. She can go run Trans Am or something.
Yeah.
She's good at that. She's good at road racing. She's done that stuff. She can go to IMSA. That's fine. She doesn't have to be in NASCAR to be successful. She might not ever be successful in NASCAR, but that's where the money is. So of course she's going to go there if she can.
Right.
There was a thread a couple of weeks ago about female race car drivers, and I don't remember if we talked about it on here or not, but I think they pick pretty over power, and that is the problem. So when it comes to these race car drivers, they're picking girls that look better than they can drive. So
they're picking social media and money over the talent. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Natalie Decker is a prime example.
Yeah, and that's a lot worse on female drivers than it is male drivers, obviously.
Right.
So, and that's not going to change. Probably within the next half of my lifetime. I would hope that it would, because there are plenty of girls that can drive race cars and they can drive them well. But I don't think until they take those pretty lenses off, you're gonna see one successful in the Cup Series. So I thought Haley could be that one, but she's not.
Which is a shame, because I think Gracie Trotter is one of the best young racers in the country, female or not. Like, she can flat out wheel a car, and
I don't think she'll
probably
get that chance.
Never get an opportunity.
Yep. And that sucks. But this weekend, COTA. We are going back to COTA. We have 2 F1 guys. We got Jordan Taylor filling in the 9 car, which is going to be really good because he's got to have the best chance out of the 3 ringers to do some good shit. But Jenson Button's been practicing the Garage 56 car at the track as we speak. So he's got a little bit of a leg up on Kimmy, who's got a little bit leg up on the other 2 because he's drove the next gen in a road course before. So this should be a really good weekend. We'll talk about that next week. You'll see me and Keith talk about that. However, Colton, I do want to get your thoughts on no stages this weekend in particular, not in the whole season worth of road courses.
Yep.
This weekend. How do you think fans are going to react to a stage cautionless Circuit of the Americas?
Fantastic, because that is what killed the race there last year. Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely 100% wrong. I think they are going to hate the hell out of this decision. It's going to bloom light into the world as the rest of the road courses. But this Formula One Tilcadrome is going to provide the worst road course race that they have ever seen, because it's going to be boring, because there's going to be 34 seconds won by whomever. There's not going to be cautions, whatever. I think if this is the first place that we had this, is going to leave a sour taste. This rule may not make it to the next road course. I guarantee you there's going to be that much backlash.
I think you're wrong. I think we're going to see guys stretch strategy so much and try to play such a strategy race that either the strategies are going to overlap and catch up with each other and provide good racing, or we're going to see someone just not pit for tires in 35, 40 laps and completely shred it and bring out a caution anyway.
I hope you're right. That's exactly what I want to happen. I want there to be beating and banging. I want there to be strategy if there's not beating and banging that shows us something that we've never seen, since we started going to these road courses in 2019 is when we started having three. No, when did the Roval start?
2020. Well, Roval started in 17 or 18.
Yeah, so 18. So we've been doing 3 races since 2018. We've been doing 4 more since 2020.
Yep.
I'm super excited for this rule. I love road course racing. I just don't think that the mass of the NASCAR audience that is on Twitter, that is vocal, that NASCAR is going to look at, wrapping back to the front of the show, I don't think they're going to be happy with it, because it's going to be strung out and boring. These are the same fans that complain about Formula One being boring. And they're happy that the stages are gone because they want the road courses to be more exciting, but they're not going to like what they get. I guarantee you.
I'd put $1 on it.
I'll put $1 on it.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
I'll add this to a running list, and when I move down south, we'll one of us will pay up.
We'll settle it. Oh, yeah. Okay. I look forward to it. Maybe we can get us a little studio and we can film this thing together in person.
Yeah, there we go. Each of us put $1 in an envelope, and we'll fucking.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll have a stack of cash just sitting on the table, and at the end of the season, we'll rake it in. Whoever's got the most rights. But no, yeah, I hope you're right. I really do. I think it's going to provide some really good strategy. I'm tired of seeing pit with 2 laps to go in the stage, or get stage points. And then if you got stage points in the first stage, you're going to do stage point pit for going for the race win. But if you took the pit in stage 1, you're going to stay out and get the stage points in stage 2. Those are the 2 strategies. You're on one or the other. I don't like that. Yep. I'm tired of seeing it. And hopefully, I don't give a damn if I lose more green flag racing from commercials. They'll see that, hey, this fucking strategy is way more bonkers than we thought it was going to be with these road courses having stage points and going caution free. That maybe next year we see some more races with no stage cautions.
I mean, how well do
super speedways would be the next.
How well do these teams know the fuel mileage of the new car? We've yet to see it at a road course try to play out.
That too. But you know how we fix that? We get a window in each weekend. And NASCAR says, let's do a 500 lap race just to make sense. Instead of, we'll say from lap 65 to lap 165 is going to be the end of stage 1, and lap 195 to 295 is going to be into stage 2. They don't know until race morning when stage 1 and 2 are going to end.
There we go.
Yep. No cautions at the end of those stages. Go.
Yep.
Figure out your strategy based on that. Yep. I think that'd be fantastic. Phenomenal.
That would be the right kind of chaos to implement.
Yeah.
Put the teams on the edge, not the cars and the drivers.
Or even better, don't tell them until they've fired the engines.
Yeah. Yeah. Have Clint Boyer in the booth drawn out of an envelope.
Yeah.
Well, lap 206.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I want to see something like that happen. I'm good with gimmicks when it's fair, when it's something to spice things up. Right. This weekend, I'll be going to my first Cars Tour race. They're putting some gimmicks in. They've got the choose cone for the first time. They do a caution clock, which is interesting. I thought this was stupid, but I watched the race at Southern National on Flow 2 weeks ago, And 35 laps without a caution, they throw a caution. They don't count caution laps. They go back green, do whatever you do. So 20 laps to go, they don't throw that caution again. So that means you can have up to 55 laps green run at the end. That was one of the best races I've seen on a short track in a long time. And they didn't have any chaos in it either. So I don't know, man. Sometimes gimmicks can work. I don't want to see that shit in NASCAR. If you're listening, which I know you're not NASCAR, don't do that shit again. That was terrible for the trucks. But I'm saying gimmicks can work sometimes.
I think
And
the caution clock really works with late models and with short tracks, especially because they don't have professional pit crews to go out and do the shit.
They don't change tires in the Cars Tour.
See, I didn't know that.
At all. So that helps with those tire cycles, or those tires getting heat cycles, which even if you're saving tires, it manipulates the rubber on them. So it makes that tire strategy even crazier. So I'm looking forward to seeing that this weekend. I thought it was going to be a 12 p.m. show, but apparently it starts at 7 p.m. So I'm going to freeze my little southern ass off in 40-degree weather. I know you're laughing at me about that one, but I'm looking forward to it. So you got any plans this weekend?
No, not really. Not any exciting plans.
Well, watch Cars Tour on Saturday on Flow Racing.
I'll check it out.
The Xfinity race.
I'll definitely check it out.
Other than that, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch, Fanfuel Gaming on Twitch, which we're live now, and the Fanfuel MSM, capital F, capital MSM everywhere else. We have a TikTok as well. Obviously, none of the guys that follow us on TikTok, which we've got over 100 followers already on TikTok, none of them tuned in today because I said the code word, the secret word, legend, now 3 times, and nobody commented the number 92. So nobody's getting a T-shirt today. So sad face. I guess I'll have to buy it for myself.
Later. Yep.
Otherwise, Keith and I will see you next week. It'll be a pre-recorded show, so just keep that in mind. And then Colton and I will be live 2 Wednesdays from now at 7:30. So we'll see you then. I was supposed to put the outro music on. So
that's right. We'll just jam to it for a minute.
Yeah, we'll just jam to it. We'll just sit here. Look at our pretty faces. You can see my little Buc-ee's shirt.
Did you guys get a Buc-ee's down there?
There is a Buc-ee's in Florence. This I bought in. Where did I buy this? I bought this on the way to. I think I bought this on the way to Austin. It was probably in Birmingham. Yeah. I've been to all of them in Texas. It seems like. Of course, the one in Birmingham, I think you said. I'm going to the one in Florence this weekend. I don't know why I go there. I'm not obsessed with this place. I just bought this shirt because it looked cool. But anyways, watch Star Tour. I'll be in the stands with you and my soon-to-be wife, Myra, in the stands. She'll probably be wearing something bright like she always does. And we're going to have a good time. So y'all have a good time too.
Yeet.